Good afternoon. Welcome to this week's episode of Purely OCD. I'm Lauren Rosen, and I'm waiting on Kelley Franke so that we can get started in talking about OCD and guilt. Hello. Let me see if I can get her on here. I think I clicked accept, so should be happening. Fingers crossed. Aha, hello.
Hello, hold on. It's weird. My thing's on a weird filter that I can't
Like your
seem to.
video is? The
Do
video
I?
looks normal, I think. Oh, whoa,
I can't get it back to the normal. Hold on.
no filtration. Whoa! Why are there glittery toilet paper rolls falling from the sky?
I don't know. We're doing this live, whatever. Hello.
I could do it as a crazy person, not create like a
Oh, get
crazy
out.
face.
See, that's not even a. I'm really upset that that's not showing up for me because obviously I would do that.
Oh my God. Dude, you
Okay.
are a flying lemon. Okay. Oh, see, we're both doing it. Oh my God.
Okay, we're coming back. We're coming back.
Okay, go back, go back. Okay,
So this is
bye.
purely OCD. This is not a replacement for therapy, but for education purposes only. Do you like how I stayed on the rails there?
I do like how you stayed on the rails, and yeah, apparently it's for flying lemons too.
Yeah,
And today we're talking about guilt and OCD. I posted about this over the weekend, and a lot of people responded. And I know that you've posted about it too. I think um, we talk a
I
lot about
did.
it.
That's right. I forgot about it though. But you're right. Anytime I do anything guilt, it always seems to do really well. So that's a
Yeah.
good indication that we should do a live.
Totally, and that we should talk about this.
Hmm.
We've got 30 minutes today. Can you keep us on the clock, Frankie? Because
I'm
I
gonna
don't
try.
have a clock nearby.
I am
Okay,
gonna try my darndest.
you do it. We do have some questions that came in prior to the live, but if you have additional questions, throw them in the question mark box, and we'll talk a little bit more about this idea and then answer some questions. Um, a little atypical because usually we talk about like obsessions and compulsions and exposures, but I think because we're talking about this general concept, I'm not sure that there are necessarily common.
Well,
Well, what do you think?
we could talk about how it presents, right?
Yep, totally.
Do you want to start us off? You want to
Sure.
kick us off?
So, yeah, I think guilt comes up and sometimes it's a trigger for so basically my thought process around this is like if you have moral scrupulosity and you feel a sense of guilt when the thoughts come on, that can actually trigger the desire to figure out what the guilt means,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Totally.
Like,
Absolutely.
oh my gosh. So, moral scrupulosity, for those watching who don't know about it, we actually have another live on this, but the idea being that you're rigid in trying to live up to a certain moral standard. And so when this happens, you might have a thought like, oh my gosh, I wasn't completely honest with that person, like 100% honest. I should probably go back and tell them just so that they know for sure, for sure. I experienced this a lot around my tiramisu themed obsessions, right? Which is a long time ago. So I talk openly about this on here, but my fear of having relapsed on a piece of tiramisu, it was like, well, am I being rigorously honest with myself?
Mm,
And I didn't tell that person, so I'm not being honest with them, which is interesting,
right.
as though we have to tell every person every single detail about our lives in order to be honest with them, which I disagree with wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But
But I
yeah,
know the
essentially,
feeling.
yes, yep, the strong desire, like, I gotta make sure,
Clarify. We like that clarification.
gotta clarify. So essentially when I would feel like I feel guilty or like I was doing something wrong by not changing my date or telling somebody, um, that was part of what would trigger me to want to confess,
Yeah.
um, as an example.
Yes. I think that's a great example. And I think that it's, you know, I think, well, in your post, you're talking about anxiety. And there's this feeling of anxiety we're learning how to sit with. But like you had so eloquently put, is that it's the experience that we're talking about. And that can also include guilt. So
Yeah.
with guilt, it can really come into any subtype of OCD. This could also include things like harm, right? Like having this feeling of, oh my gosh, I had a harm thought of this innocent child. What does that say about me? And then beating yourself up over it, not only for having the intrusive thought making you anxious, but the back end of it is then beating yourself up into shame and saying, I should feel guilty. I do feel like this must mean I'm a bad person, right?
Right.
So it's the two arrow concept.
Yeah, I think that that's really important because that's, as you were talking, I was thinking about that, um, the shame guilt and
Mm-hmm.
what differentiates
Yeah,
the two.
let's talk about
Um,
it.
let's talk about it. What's your, I mean, I'm sure our definitions are probably the same because that's
Yeah.
how we roll. Let me situate myself here. Go
Um,
ahead.
yeah, well, I'm due for a good situation because
Ah,
everyone
situate.
knows who watches this. We're not having a lot of people joining us today, but I'm so glad for those of you who are joining us. I promise we will deliver. Let's hope. So guilt versus shame.
Hmm.
Guilt is when you've done something objectively wrong. So if you were to do something, and it's a functional emotion, if you were doing something like, for example, you're drinking and then you're getting into your car and you're driving and you have then hit somebody, well,
Yes.
it makes sense. Guilt should come on because it's telling you probably don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
Something bad happened, right?
Yeah.
That's not
Yep.
acceptable behavior. In the court of law, everyone would say, yes, guilty.
Yep. Yeah. Great.
Shame. Passing the
Shame.
baton. You.
Oh, okay. Shame is when you have potentially had some experience, and instead of feeling badly about having done something, and I do want to like sort of point out too that you can feel guilt without having done something wrong, right? That
Absolutely.
you're
Well, yeah,
absolutely,
that's,
yeah, what we're talking about
yeah,
here.
totally.
But you're right, like it is functional when it comes up in certain contexts, and so looking at guilt as an emotion just like anxiety that we want to read like, oh well, are there any facts in this situation that would dictate that this feeling is appropriate and needs my attention. Oftentimes the case is no, right? If you have anxiety in the context of OCD, you're probably having a lot of anxiety that's not based in facts. But if you have anxiety um, related to, I don't know, you forgot to do a paper for school and it's due right in 10 minutes. Yeah, you probably want to, it's like trying to motivate you to get some stuff done.
Yeah, totally.
Um, so same with guilt, but I think that the shame piece is when we get into this realm of I'm bad, not I've done something wrong or perhaps I've done something wrong, but instead I am wrong.
Hmm.
So it's when we take these, and they can be related. Let's take the car accident for example, right? Like if you've done that and then you turn it into I'm a horrible human, I don't deserve to live, right? Like these types of thoughts would be where it would maybe shift into shame,
Hmm.
um,
Like a
and
core
it's not
belief.
productive. Yes, absolutely. But the thing is about shame, we put it perfectly at the beginning. It's not functional.
Shame is never functional, I don't, in my opinion.
Mm-mm.
Um, and I think, it's maybe worth pointing out, I've seen this a lot with COVID stuff.
Mm.
Although I'm so sick of talking about COVID, let's talk about it for a moment. Is that
One moment.
it goes sideways a bit with the harm stuff is like, well, I know the facts are that it is taking a certain risk in, exposing my child or myself to other people. And there's this feeling of guilt that a few of my clients have expressed of like, well, I'm trying to do harm reduction, right? By minimizing the amount of exposure and then feeling guilty for any small amount of exposure at all. It's like, well, I could have done that, right? So so guilt is driving it. Like, this is my fault that now my kid is sick because I've exposed them to something that I know is a risk, and I could have chosen to do homeschooling, right? I swear this is not my obsession, though.
I didn't think it was, but yeah, I think
Well,
it's probably coming up a lot right now.
yeah, with the parents, and I work with a lot of parents. It's definitely, it's so strong. The guilt is strong with them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's and in some ways it's interesting. Guilt, what is guilt but an anxiety around having done something wrong?
Right. Having thoughts is not cause for guilt, though, just so you guys all know.
Or shame, right? Like, I think the problem with the shame too is that it's not, it actually is it's antithetical to functional, because it basically, it's if you say you are wrong, then there's no hope, right? Like, there's no, why even bother trying then, because it's almost a cop out in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think either way, shame, guilt, the thoughts are thoughts, and uh, thoughts don't need any sort of attention inherently.
Right. And the antidote to shame is vulnerability, just so everyone knows. If you're feeling lots of shame about something, find someone that's trustworthy enough that you think you can share something that you feel shameful about, and have them respond to you in a very loving, compassionate, unconditional way. And shame will be punched in the face.
Right in the face.
Just right in this area. Aggressive.
Yes, aggressive.
And guilt is exposure.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about that, Lauren?
Yeah, so practicing exposure and response prevention with this involves being willing, just like we talk about with feeling anxiety, being willing to feel guilt. We oftentimes, in many subtypes, talk about this feeling irresponsible, and that's just guilt,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that's just guilt.
Yeah. Oh, I'm doing something wrong. So being willing to tolerate that feeling is so much a part of recovery from almost every subtype.
Yeah.
So for example, let's take the harm OCD stuff. So somebody might have a thought about harming their family, and then in addition to, or instead of anxiety, they may feel a strong sense of guilt for having had the thought in the first place, and then want to confess to someone, like, oh, by the way, I had a thought about killing you, but it's fine, right? Like, well, and it is, like, there are some people who, right, like, they're that open with the person that they have the thoughts about, and it's like,
absolutely,
erases, like, good, I don't have to be responsible for that one anymore. They know, they've consented to being in this relationship, even though I'm having thoughts, right?
Yeah. Have you read the consent form?
Yeah.
Here and signed it. You see it a lot in relationship OCD too, right? Where it's like, let me confess to them every misstep that I've engaged in to make sure they really are okay with the fact that maybe I'm broken.
Maybe I'm broken, or maybe I don't really love them. They need to know this, right? And so not telling them it's going to bring up that guilt, and then you're going to learn to tolerate that guilt, right?
Yep.
Ooh, where do I feel that in my body? I feel it in lots of places. Like, I tend to feel guilt, trying to think, like, in my chest area, like a light tightening, and maybe even like a lump at the back of the throat, or like a little bit. It kind of has similar flavors to the anxiety feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a heartburn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feeling. Yeah. It's all just in this section usually. Yeah. Chest,
heartburn,
stomach,
nausea, indigestion.
Oh my gosh, sorry, I was so nauseous yesterday. I was so nauseous. I'm like, oh, anxiety's here. Hello.
Hello. Good day to you. Yeah. Yeah.
Great explanation.
Thank you. And to you as well. You're really keeping us on the rails today, friend.
I am, right? I'm doing a
You're
pretty good job.
crushing it. Yes. So, do you want to talk about any exposures that you think are pertinent in this realm? So we took like in the response prevention too, I guess, because we talked about not seeking reassurance.
Well, I think with the ones that like, I guess the one that's really fresh in my mind, and because school's starting for a lot of moms,
Hmm.
sorry, I'm selfish, but we're going to talk about this, is that
Do it.
the exposure is using, for me, values is saying, well, you want to send your kid to school. Why? Right? Because if we don't, at what cost, right? You're going to deplete yourself. You can't offer them what a teacher and other children can, because on some degree they're accepting the fact that there's some reality in it, but that it's not like they are cognitively making the choice to send them, but we don't have any certainty that that's going to even happen. But also, aren't we all? If you're sitting in a court of law, everyone would be like, yeah, that's what a lot of people are doing. They're just sending their kids to school.
Right.
It's
Right.
good for them.
Right. Because, well, and because it's with every choice that we make, we are we're sort of missing out on other things, right?
Yep.
So if it's opportunity cost in the world of economics, and so if you keep your kid home from school, yes, you are gaining more certainty that they won't get COVID, but if you keep them home from school, you also they're missing out on the opportunity to socialize and connect with children and have normal experiences, which they've missed out on so much. And so, like the social side of things, the just being in a different learning environment with a teacher, right, that could sort of reduce um, challenges at home related to
Oh, my screen keeps
parents.
doing that thing where it goes
Oh, where it goes
dark.
dark.
Hold on, let me change. Hold on. Oh,
Yeah, do it. It's a double hand. What do you mean by that, double hand? I'm confused.
so I was just gonna say too with that is that I'm not advocating for sending, like, you can either way. My theory is this: guilt will be there no matter what choice you
Oh,
make.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you keep them home, guilt will be like, you kept them home away from social interaction. How dare you?
Right.
You sick woman or man.
You sick woman or man. Um, yeah, no, actually, this is
Yep.
what Adam was saying. Well done. The double
Mm-hmm.
hand. The
Yeah.
two-tailed spike, my friend. Isn't
Yep.
that the two-tailed spike? No matter what choice you make, you're gonna get spiked.
Oh yeah. Um, wait, what was the original question that you had for me?
I don't remember.
Shoot.
That's all right.
Oh.
No, no,
You said
no.
something about exposures.
Oh, yeah. So, exposures related and response prevention related to guilt.
Right. So just we do it just like we would any exposure. I would say even when going back to the original one is like, let's say you're having pedophilia thoughts, right? And this comes up a lot
Hmm.
naturally, is that reading an imaginal exposure or bringing up an intrusive thought while playing with the child, you will feel guilt.
Yeah,
Pretty likely. Not always, but I wouldn't be
probably.
shocked. Yeah, probably,
Yeah,
say.
seems
And
reasonable.
so we want to know it's there, right? This is anxiety and guilt. Okay, so let's learn how to handle this without engaging in, well, if I feel guilt, then I'm doing something guilty. That must mean I'm bad, right?
Right.
Or I'm doing something
Right.
bad.
Yep, absolutely. When sometimes it means
You're just playing with the kid, listening to words.
that. Yeah.
Mm,
But you have to accept uncertainty.
of course.
Yeah.
But looking at the facts,
Yep.
totally. Also, you had mentioned this, do the facts miss or match the feelings? And even if they do, to what degree, right? Like not with the pedophilia one, but let's say one that's like a real event thing.
Hmm.
There might be a level of guilt, but the level at which somebody's experiencing it is not at all. It's like the punishment doesn't match the crime,
It's out of,
right?
it's excessive.
It's
Yeah.
excessive and it's unhelpful.
Yeah.
So we got to just do more exposures and have you feel more guilty all the time.
Yep. Yep. By the way, Lisa said hi. She's got a great live that I was on last week called The
Oh,
Comfort Zone. I just wanted to say
hello.
hey. I don't see, they were so good last week while we were on there because they were like there because they were commenting, and I don't know how to do that while we're talking. I can't. I'm not good enough to do that. Like to
Oh
say
no,
like
we
type in the
can't. I
comment
don't have my
box.
glasses. No. I'm so sorry, you guys. Maybe we'll
I'm
work
just
on that. Once I get
yeah.
contacts, we'll be good.
Ooh. Anyway,
Anyways,
um,
very nice
so
that you joined us, Lisa.
thanks for joining,
I
and
haven't
check out her
reached out.
podcast or her thing me live, whatever we're calling it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree. Bring
Questions.
on the feelings. Let's bring on the questions now. Uh, so wait, how do I?
See, we have
There
to
you
get
go.
all close and
I know. See, I'll get in there and like, yeah, yep, exactly. The guilt makes me feel like the thoughts are so real. I don't know if they are. Will this ever go away?
will the guilt ever go away? If we can.
Yeah, I don't know if the fact that the guilt makes it feel like the thoughts are real. So
Okay.
I have thoughts on this, but yeah, go for it.
No,
You
no,
have
you
thoughts.
do it. You lead here.
I have feelings about this idea that thoughts or feelings feel, or that thoughts feel real. Because I think what we're talking about here is that you have thoughts that, or one has thoughts that they're afraid are indications of genuine beliefs or desires, and then they feel anxious about it, about the fact that they're having these thoughts and what those thoughts might mean. And so this idea that like the guilt makes me feel like the thoughts are so real. Well, the thoughts are real in that they're real mental events that you're having in your brain. But the thoughts aren't necessarily reflections of reality. And so if you're having thoughts about, oh my gosh, but these thoughts could be real, I don't know that that thought per se ever goes away. You might have thoughts like, oh, well, this could be an indication of my innermost desires, that this thought that just popped into my mind, and you're going to feel guilty. And I don't think either of those experiences are necessarily going to go away because you're a human being, and guilt is a normal response to have, whether or not it's based in the facts.
Right.
Because we feel all sorts of things that don't make sense all the time.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have I been on my period and been like, I'm so upset, and there's nothing happening.
Oh my God.
Nothing.
No,
I'm just
absolutely.
saying.
No, how many times is it's like, yeah, I'll just I feel like the more I practice meditation and mindfulness, the more I see it throughout the day too, where it's
Totally.
like,
You can
oh,
watch it, ride it.
wow. Like,
Look
oh,
at this happening.
this is happening right now. I am feeling
Hmm.
anxious. And then it's like the next, like 5 minutes later, I'm like, I'm on top of the world. I could just like take it all on, you know? And then it's
Right.
like, oh, this life thing is so sad, right? Like, it's just like,
Or you could go,
whoa.
OCD could be like, well, have you considered that maybe you have bipolar disorder? And then you
Ooh.
go, and tell
Yeah.
me more.
Yeah.
Huh? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
sorry, I had to go there with that one because
I like that.
OCD obviously shows up a lot with
Yeah.
anything.
With anything. Like, oh, why am I
Hmm.
having these emotional experiences that are all over the place? Must
Hmm.
mean something's wrong. I should probably try and figure it out. Probably. Or not.
Sorry, I
No.
distracted us. Great response. You nailed it.
Thank you. I don't think you distracted us at all. Okay. Um, so I'm not entirely sure. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Does guilt stem purely from OCD or also the content of the obsessions? Not entirely sure that I understand this question. Do you?
No.
Mm.
I'm like, no. Um, say the first part.
Does guilt stem purely from OCD or also the content of the obsessions?
I feel like this is a trap question for some reason.
Yeah, are we trying to figure out here if the guilt is reflective of OCD or something real? I don't know.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Guilt is a feeling, and so is anxiety, and so is sadness, and so is happiness. But to not interpret it is the key, is to instead allow yourself to have an emotional experience because your brain is actually operating. It's good. If you feel the spectrum of emotions, that's so good,
yeah,
right? Let yourself
yep,
feel feelings instead of, because we have prefrontal cortexes that like to figure things out and we have cognitive um, abilities that other creatures don't, we
yeah,
overthink things instead of just being like a cat who's just like, I'm pissed at the world. But it doesn't matter why. Like they're
yeah.
just in the
Just
moment.
pissed. Just
Yeah.
pissed right now.
Letting themselves be mad.
Yeah.
Cranky little assholes. Sorry.
They are.
That's,
So
yeah.
that's true. I love them, but it's
Except
true.
except Jack.
Except for Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
That's
just
Lauren's
happy
cat.
about the world. Yeah. Aw. Hi, Emma. I love how everyone's coming on today. It's good to see you.
Yes.
Um, so I think in terms of the guilt stemming from OCD or the content of the obsessions, yeah, I think you nailed it. I think any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's natural that the obsession would inherently induce guilt feelings,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, it's more of just saying you can do like a quick fact check and say, if I were in a court of law, would these people all say on the jury, you're guilty for
Yeah.
having terrible, horrific thoughts? No, because Stephen King would be then guilty and
Of a
would be
lot.
sent, yeah, he would be like excommunicated basically.
Yeah.
Um,
Read
so,
1984, right? Like
right.
I mean, the thought police don't exist for a
They don't.
reason
They
because
don't.
yeah,
They
if they
don't.
did.
And we do that once as like a reality check. Okay, good. But then we have to accept uncertainty ultimately. That's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. And after a while working with a certain obsession, you get an idea of the flavor of it. And at a certain point
Hmm.
it becomes, I'm not even going to reality test that one. That doesn't get my time, right? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe, right? But
I've
that
done
one,
that.
yeah, it's like that's where it's like if it walks like a duck or if it walks like OCD and quacks like OCD, it's probably OCD and you probably want to take the leap.
That's
Um,
right.
because you know what? OCD has taken up enough of my time. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, shall we? What time is it?
Yes.
You need
We
to
probably
keep.
have a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Let's take maybe one more, depending on how fast it is.
Okay. Um,
Sorry, guys. I'm going to try to reduce saying sorry because I say it a lot.
I think that's a grand plan.
Help me.
I will. I'll be happy to hold you accountable.
Thank you.
Um, let's see. I'm just trying to find one that is different, but maybe just I'm guilty for not doing compulsions. I don't know if this is a question. Feeling guilty for not doing compulsions and now bad things will happen. For example, loved ones will die.
It sounds like what people experience after they do an exposure, maybe.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what we're trying to induce
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
terrible and horrible, and we sound like monsters as therapists is doing that, but that's what we're trying to do,
Yeah.
is bring on that feeling
Yeah. What do you
and
think
thought.
the thing about this is that I think a lot of the I've got to just do it just to be safe falls into this category where the guilt comes up. Does that make sense? Like I want
Yeah.
to, well, it's so easy for me to just redo this thing real quick. And if it makes if it makes it sure that this bad thing won't happen, then I would be selfish to
Right.
do anything else.
That's it, right? Like that's it. If I just do this, if I just keep my windows, closed and locked just one more time, the intruder won't come in and kill me and all of my family.
Right.
It's just
And
going to take one
sometimes,
second.
right, exactly. It would be so short and quick and I think also sometimes it's the fear, gosh, OCD. It's the fear of future guilt. I'll
Yes.
never be able to
Oh,
live with
yes.
myself if,
I'll never. Ugh. How many
yeah.
times have I said that?
I don't know. I've said it a lot. So I feel you, right? Like, oh, I can't do this because what if? And it's like, well,
Mm,
I don't know. I've
okay.
lived with a lot of anxiety, so
Yeah. I think I've pretty much felt all of these at some point. Taste the rainbow.
yeah. The Skittles of
Skittles.
OCD. Oh no, I'm sorry.
God, man.
My battery was being angry
Okay.
with me, but yes, I agree. The Skittles of OCD. All right, shall do we need to depart?
Yeah, I think really quickly though, is it Emma? Is that the
Yes. Oh
Scott?
yeah.
Oh, hi Emma. Okay. So she
Yes.
mentioned something. I see a lot of people feeling guilty about having their obsessions become known by their partners. Absolutely.
Yeah.
See
Yeah,
that a
absolutely.
lot. And I think a lot of that too is shame.
Yeah.
So, can
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't be with
So,
this
yeah.
person for the rest of my life and not tell them that I have thoughts of harming children, right? That then they won't really know me and
Oh, I've
right?
seen that a lot. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah. It's like, well, that's giving a lot of importance to the thoughts that you're having. And look, one way or another, if you choose to talk about it or not, I think it's important to limit the amount of time that you talk about the content because ultimately it just turns reassurance,
Yeah.
impulsive reassurance.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, guilt tricks us into compulsions all the time, Emma. Yes,
The
tricky,
end.
tricky. The end. All right. Thank you, dear. No, no
Thank
sorries.
you.
Only how wonderful that you showed up today to talk about this topic, and hopefully, you found something helpful to anyone out there watching today. And we will look forward to
Yes.
seeing you same time next week.
Talking about something else really
Talk,
cool.
talking about something else really cool. Cool. Okay. I'm
Cool
off the
is
rails.
it.
I gotta go.
Okay,
All
everyone have a
right.
lovely day, a good enough
Have,
day.
yeah, have a good enough day. Goodbye.
Okay, goodbye.